Hey there, folks. So, it's time for another intermission. I know it's been a little while since the last one back in early December, and for me personally, quite a few things have changed since then that I felt needed to be, I don't want to say talked about, but needed to be mentioned. Well, where do I start with this one? Let's start with the most recent thing that hopefully you're aware of as long as you've been following along with the series. In the last two episodes, that's episodes 134 and 135, I ended up coming to the realization that how I've implemented the equipment/inventory system just isn't working out the way I had expected it to. Sorry. The level of complexity involved in adding in equipment slots to the character is turning out to be way more than I wanted it to be. I wanted to have things really as simple as possible so that it would allow for like an easy expansion, easy modification, and easy mod support. It's turned out the amount of work involved is getting well beyond what I would consider acceptable for that. So, as such, I'm basically going to be ripping out what is the current inventory/equipment system in might be next episode, might be the episode after that. I'm not sure. Depends on what I can get done. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be recording an episode on that where I'll be showing how you can do things like this, like ripping out a chunk of code and setting it up in a way that it's not going to break any of your other existing logic or classes or things like that. Once I've got that ripped out, I'm going to be circling back to some of the other sections of code that could do with a bit of a refactoring or a reworking. Mainly things like the Chrono Manager, as there is some lighting issues there. I've started to realize I've crammed a little too much, or I'm trying to cram a little too much into the Chrono Manager. Because I was also thinking of making it a weather manager. But there's a few other things I want to correct as well. But following that, I'm going to obviously need to move on to some other things within the project because there's some limitations on what I can work on in the existing code. So I'm going to move on to things like, as I just mentioned, a weather system, possibly crafting, maybe a building system. I'm not sure on that yet. That's probably a little further down the line because I really need inventory. Crafting and in building really need inventory, but I can work around that. But anyways, don't worry. While I'm doing all of this additional code work, I'm still going to be trying to redesign the inventory and equipment system in the background. Now, what I mean by that is I'm going to be fleshing things out on paper. And yes, I still do it old school that way, plan things out on paper. There's just something about the process of writing it all out that I just find works better for me. But once I have something fleshed out, I'll be coming back to the inventory system and we'll be getting that up and running, making sure it all works. And that's the inventory, equipment slots, all that fun stuff. Really, that inventory equipment system is one of the last things that I consider is needed before I could start moving the project forward as a whole. And by that I mean getting something together that could be, operative part of that statement, could be considered an early tech demo. I'm not thinking it's going to be an early tech demo, but basically it's got the core gameplay mechanics in there. The only other thing missing would be a sleep system, but as the project's a simple single-player game, I don't want to say simple, but as the project's a single-player game, a sleep system should be relatively easy to add. And again, this, I don't want to say I'm expecting to do a tech demo. I'm just using that as a term of reference. That's getting all of the core foundational components into the engine, the game, don't want to say engine, into the game so that things can be built upon, adapt, tweaked, expanded. Because once you have that foundation for everything, you can go, okay, well, the weather system needs some work. I'm going to work on that. The crafting system needs some work. I'm going to work on that. I need to add 10 different NPC types. I'm going to work on that. Right now, these first 130, it's probably going to be 150 to 200 episodes of the series, is going to be covering getting in that foundational stuff. And then after that, hopefully things will start moving at a faster pace because all the foundation is there. It's like, okay, we can move forward. Start getting into the nitty-gritty stuff, start expanding to actually having multiple NPCs, multiple things of wildlife, creating more advanced AI behavior trees, stuff like that. But now, the next big thing / announcement. As of this video going live for everyone on June 2nd, June 2nd, I no longer have my day job. No, I wasn't fired. Didn't quit, nothing like that. I'll explain. Now, this is something I have known about for some time. With the current global economy, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it, it's not what this channel is about. The company I worked for needed to downsize. And with that, a lot of the out-of-country employees, such as myself, and to explain, I live in Canada. The company was based in the US. A lot of us were let go. For anyone familiar with the tech industry, you'll know there's a lot of people out there looking for work. And having both a rather niche skill set as well as being a self-taught programmer, I'm having difficulty finding work in the industry. And finding anything going forward is going to be a challenge. Now let me stop here for a moment, as I want to clarify something. This is not a cry for help or an attempt to get people to throw money at me out of sympathy. For those of you who have been following from the start, I have tried to be as transparent with everything as I can be. This is just something I didn't want to talk about unless I had to. Well, at this point I have to because it's now affecting the series. So. But anyways, this losing my job, that is one of the hurdles and struggles of being a dev. I'm trying to think how to word this. It's being a dev of any kind, be it a video game dev or an enterprise solution dev or anything like that. You'll have likely heard at some point, mainly because it's relevant for the game stuff, there has been a lot of layoffs at game studios in the last few years. Well, that goes the same for all tech companies. For anyone watching the news post-COVID restrictions, a lot of the major tech companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, or Meta, laid off tons of employees. It's a volatile industry, but that is something you will want to be aware of if you plan on pursuing a career in the tech industry. No one is... What's the term I want to use here? Well, everyone is expendable. That's the better way to describe it. So, if it's not a cry for help, why did I even bring this up? Well, there's two reasons. First reason, for the next while, I don't know how long it could be a couple of weeks, could be a couple of months, the frequency of videos will hopefully be increasing. I'm hoping to get back to at least 2 videos a week, maybe more. We'll have to see. The reason for that is I'm going to be having some more time to do both my background planning and designing, and also have more time to record. There's only so many jobs you can apply for in a day, so I'm going to have a lot more free time than I had previously. And reason 2. And this one I want to preface with, don't panic. But I'm going to be revisiting, I can't talk apparently, revisiting the monetization aspect of the channel. I'm going to see what things I can do there to make a difference. I'm trying to say this in a way that's not sound like I'm greedy. I'm getting incredibly close to what is the second stage of the YouTube partner program. It unlocks a lot more options for me, but with those additional options come some additional requirements. But I want to say this, do not worry. I am still standing by my philosophy that absolutely nothing should be gated behind a paywall. All content is still going to be available for free. As just with this last little while, early member access is where I put a limit. What I plan on doing, though, is I'm going to be looking at other ways I could offer some sort of membership perks, things like that. You will have hopefully noticed in the last couple of episodes I have started to include a list of my channel members. I'm still working on just how I want to do that. I want to make sure it's not obstructive to the video itself, but it also works as a way to say thank you to my supporters. Really, what I'm trying to do is find a way to say thank you and list them, but I'm trying to do it in a way that doesn't come across as like I'm begging for you to join as a member. That's why I don't do the default like, comment, subscribe, and join that is in pretty much every single other YouTube video out there. It's not me. And then also one of the other things I'm not going to be doing when it comes to monetization of the channel is I am not going to be doing sponsors. I'm not going to shill out to you on behalf of some other company that I will probably never use the product or service, whatever it is. There's product services and a bunch of other stuff you see in all these other sponsored videos. It's got nothing to do with the channel, so I'm not going to do it. And I'll be honest, I've already turned down 2 sponsorships. No, I'm not going to say who they are, but you can probably guess. They weren't the best sponsorship offers, but they were an offer. But I politely declined because, again, that's not my channel. I don't want that. Honestly, I'm trying to keep the whole spend money, and I'm doing air quotes like you can see me, but I'm trying to keep that whole spend money side of thing out of my videos. It's why I don't do things like marketplace asset reviews. I don't do the monthly or the bi-weekly free assets on the Fab store. Things like that, because I may advertise or may do a video on it and it's only good for 2 weeks. Well, I don't want to have a video that's good for 2 weeks and then you have to spend money if you see an asset you like. It's just not who I want to be. You do what you want with your money. It is not my place to try and suggest how you spend it or sort of subliminal advertising with these sponsorships, things like that. That's just not me. But anyways, that's really all I wanted to cover in this intermission. I didn't think it would turn out to be nearly 15-minute long video, but apparently so. I know it's not exactly what would be considered a positive intermission. General context of everything here is negative. However, I will say this, I'm still happy with the channel. I'm still going to continue going the way I have been. I have no intent of stopping anytime soon. I'm actually thinking of ways I can add in different content just beyond the survival game series. One-off tutorials, things like that. I've mentioned it in the past. I've actually got a list. I'm just trying to figure out how I can do that. But again, I'm doing this because I want to be transparent with everyone. Because, again, part of this series, it's not only, I don't want to call it a tutorial series, but it's a devlog. It's documenting the process and just dev life as a whole. And because all of this is part of being a dev, be it a video game dev or, as I mentioned, enterprise software dev, which is what I was, it's something I felt needed to be talked about. But with that, I'm going to say thanks for taking the time to watch. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below or hop over onto Discord. Links in the channel, link in the description below, or there should be a link in the channel's about page if it's not there. Discord is still the best way to reach out, as for whatever reason, YouTube comments still aren't generating notifications reliably for me. I'm getting like 1 out of every 4 comments I'll get a notification, so not sure what's going on there. But as always, thanks for watching, folks, and I will see you in the next episode.